Think so? We'll see if we are on YouTube. We get this thing lit up, trucking, and on that will be, yes, it says live now. See if we get it fired off here. Slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on IE Newswire, on Facebook, Twitch, and Jesse lives in every day of anticipation for me to say we're on YouTube. And I know it's his favorite because that's the first one he puts us up on every day. On that, we'll be joining KMET as we usually do at the bottom of the hour. Kelly Victory will be on later on the show on that too. But as we say, there's nothing hardly going on in the news. This is because it's a weekend. We haven't been on. So maybe we'll just play show tunes from the 40s all day today on that. As we work on that. One of these a little more kind of funny, haha, but serious moments that you see every day. And probably one of the benefits that you see from the social media. Flip up number 4, please. We showed you last week the genius that had plastic bags stuffed in his trunk of his car with gasoline in them. Now, this guy is at least using some of the proper containers to use that, but he has them strapped to the back of this makeshift receiver tube trailer holder / putting 5-gallon cans of gas. Looks like about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 30 gallons of gas right in the back of his car. Again, does this genius not know what would happen if he got in a rear-end collision? He would be an instant, and whoever hit him would be an instant ball of fire, you complete freaking idiot. You know, where is, again, the old saying, where is a cop when you need them, man? If there's anybody that deserved a ticket, that's this Klondike that's running around with 30 gallons of gas off his receiver tube hitch holder of that, driving around town, hoarding gas, which you shouldn't be. If you're going to hoard gas, or, you know, it's not bad to have some gas stored up somewhere in a safe place. But you should have that anyway, just in case of emergency of that. You shouldn't be out there just because Biden and his crew want to do the latest panic to try and get us to 5+ gallons of gas. Here you go of that. Don't be doing stuff stupid. You know, get a pickup or something going on of that. You're a quick on the trigger on the Monday. Man, you must have had a great weekend or something, Jesse. Yes, went out and had some fun. We'll give you a report on that a little bit. But here's the next one on that. I thought this was pretty funny. This is at a Nashville gas station of that. Now, flip up number 4, please, as we're seeing that. Of the Country Squire restaurant as we're doing that. Where's the Hunter Biden? Yes, Biden-Harris on E of that. Now, I want to say this. You guys are complaining at $2.89. Ha ha ha. You ought to live in California's $4 a gallon and climbing. I know you guys have went from $1.79 to $2.79, but look at our gas prices at $2. $4 and climbing of that. You guys will be right behind us in that in no time soon. They're going to have a standard gas price all across the United States, and it's going to be a minimum of $5 a gallon and climbing. Just wanted to show you that. I love the edict there. Biden, E on the E of the tank, Harris. That just about sums up our little rendition here of the way things are going in the United States of America circa 2021. We're going to get to the next one I'm going to do is the Corey Jackson deal on that, and that's got a deal. But I want to tell you about growing up as a kid in Edgemont in the 60s. And we had, we were farm community, military community, March Air Force Base, biggest strategic air command base west of the Mississippi, and all that stuff going on. It's the same one of that, yes. It's that one. Shut it off. But growing up in the 60s again, and we had a little racetrack called Riverside International Raceway. And as a kid cruising around on there and stuff, and you would run across characters like Henry Smokey Unick. This is Henry Smokey Unick getting inducted into the Daytona Beach Rotary Club, I think, Hall of Fame, because NASCAR, being the wisdom that they are, did not ever put the great mechanic, engineer, all-around innovator Henry Smokey Unick in theirs. But this is not too, what is 2011. He's being inducted into the Daytona Beach Rotary Hall of Fame of that at the Daytona Hilton. And this is what Henry Smokey Unick had to say. Here we go.
In 47, to me, is when it started with cars. I started motorcycles before that. I had a little interruption where they had an argument with some sneaky Jap and some German asshole.
Now I want to do that. He's coming back, and Smokey flew planes in the World War II, and he's talking about coming back and when he started his career, Best Damn Garage in Daytona Beach. Started his career in racing and that, became a chief mechanic, Indy 500, Daytona 500 winner, and accomplished probably as much or more as anybody has in the world of racing. But that's the kind of talk you heard as a kid or anything else in this area in the 60s. And you know what? When we heard that, we didn't crawl up in a ball in the fetal position and shout racist and oh, homophobe and oh, this and we're all gonna die. Oh, you're bullying. Oh, you said something mean or nasty or that about somebody else or that. What's wrong with our society today is you can't say it the way it is, like Henry Smokey Unick did, without getting castigated, thrown under the bus, and everything else that's going on of that. You know, you can sound old or you can sound like a curmudgeon or that's the way we did it. But you know what? It's that kind of fighting spirit in 200 years that built the greatest country that was ever assembled. They talked that way in 1776. They told King George, we're going to stuff it up your rear end. Even though you got us outnumbered, $10, 100 to 1, we don't care. We're going to kick your ass. Like Henry Smokey Unick said, little 5-year interruption in the prime of my life because, and he told it the way it is. I do that because we're going to talk about the schools here in a second, but there's just another thing, and they've been going about it. But we're eliminating all the test scores and that because, under the guise of equality. Mind you, we brought you last week of Loudoun County, Virginia, where under the guise of equality, they're putting some of the most extreme X-rated books in the library talking about D sucking, P eating, and effing using the word and big D and all this other stuff in your schools under the guise of equity. This is why you go against this stuff, and it's in your schools here. This was posted, what's going on in Riverside County. Mind you, a lot of these sites, what's going on in Riverside County, original one in Beaumont banning Cherry Valley. Oh, we don't want to talk politics. Everybody gets mean and nasty, and we can't upset anybody. They're telling the truth. We might have to face reality. We might have to hear somebody like Henry Smokey Unick, and we won't know what to do. What's going on in Riverside County? It's posted by Sean Mill. Do you think student resource officers should be removed from our school campuses? Riverside County Education Board member Corey Jackson does. Paris words might be the loss of a child. Imagine the pain and guilt they must endure that if this child was killed at school or school they sent them off the very morning we all are aware of Columbine, Sandy Hook, and Parkland, but violence does always come in the form of mass shootings. Doesn't always happen somewhere else. Diego Stoltz, 13-year-old student at Landmark Middle School in Moreno Valley, died in 2019 after he was attacked by classmates. This was the second killing of a student on that very same campus. Weeks after the killing of Stoltz, 2 students were arrested at Sunnymead Middle School in Moreno Valley for attacking a teacher and another student in November, the year that a student at Valley View in Moreno Valley was arrested and assaulting a sheriff's deputy. So go back and look in the archives of the Press Enterprise and look at the hissy fit Moreno Valley Unified School District was having because school resources were arresting criminals in the schools that are causing this problem. Now, mind you, the sergeant at that landmark meeting after Diego Stoltz was killed stepped up the plate and said, you know what the problem is? It's people you vote for. There's a crowd of about 3, 4, 5, maybe 500 people there. That sergeant school resource officer, about 2 or 3 weeks later, was no longer the head of the SROs or that he was reassigned. Wonder why? Maybe it's because, and then you have Daryl Peden, which is a close associate of the aforementioned county school board member, and he's a Moreno Valley school board member, who is running this stuff. The one that was mentioned, here that goes again, was the Riverside County school board member, Corey Jackson. Did you get that? Let me know when you got that done. No, he's the one out there of the aforementioned post here in Riverside, what's going on in Riverside County. Jackson has been vocal in his support of defunding a police effort that went on to say our goal is to completely eliminate any form of law enforcement on campus. We as a society have been conditioned to think that law enforcement prevents crime when all that they do is respond to it. And whatever they do to respond to all often turns out into racial profiling. All these things can be prevented if adults just do their jobs on campus. This is a very scary belief for someone in the position of Dr. Jackson who wants to pass the blame on the violent behavior onto our schools, the teachers, staff, and administrators on campus. He completely absolves the students and parents of any responsibility. His words are irresponsible and very dangerous. If he is allowed to push his agenda forward, our schools will be far more dangerous than they really are. As I said, Corey Jackson, Moreno Valley's gift to Riverside County. You elected these UCR crowds and all of you all that went down there and said, we love this UCR. Oh, we're going to make it a medical school, and we're going to do this. It's going to be big. You know, you hicks and hillbillies, like Henry Smokey Eunuch that used to come out here or whatever, we want to absolve you. You know, this UCR is an agricultural school. We're going to eliminate that. We're going to get rid of that, and we're going to show you how us educators, city slickers, business people are going to run things. Well, you know what? There was one voice out there that says you're going to rue the day you do that, because they are going to take over your town. Look at Berkeley, look at UCLA, look at San Diego, or anywhere else they've got their strongholds in this university system. They turn the town into crapiola. Look at what's happened to Riverside. Now, they might not be a bastion of ethics, but at least they had a crew in there that knew what the crap was going on. Now you got a bunch of liberals, left-wing, equality, white fragility people on the council, and Corey Jackson is running robocalls on the one person that's in the council in Riverside, Chuck Conder, implying that he's a racist because he wants another one of his UCR radical friends. You know what they're doing? They're doing it with your money. Mark Tucano, Jose Medina, they got all the bucks that you poured into that. All you business people, all you ones that voted for this crap, and all you ones that supported it, now you're reaping what you sowed. You wanted it, they're turning the tables on you with your money and laughing at you. Put up the number 4, please. You want to know why Corey Jackson is smiling? Because your money is funding his agenda to control you and make him and the Tucanos and the Gulag Gavins the masters and you the slave. So you better get it and turn it around quick before you lose the whole thing. You better recall Gavin Newsom. You should be pre-calling Corey Jackson and Darrell Peden and getting them out of office. No, what do? You vote these Klondikes into office. And then you wonder why your kids get killed at school or you can't even take them to school. How many schools are sitting empty over a phony COVID crisis that was blown 5,000 gazillion times out of proportion? These are why you pay attention. And I hope more of these social media sites will take Facebook and tell them to stuff it up their rear end, like what's going on in Riverside County, Moreno Valley Matters, original one in Beaumont, and all that, to say, oh, we don't want to talk about politics because somebody might say boo to me, and I will fall completely apart. Well, you know what? When the train wreck hits, and it's your kid, or your family that's affected by this after the fact, is too late. And we do this, we keep running the same stuff each and every day. Now I want to show you how the dominant media manipulates you. This is the Sac Reed. Number 4, please. California Firefighter Union withholds support for Newsom on recall, citing pay cuts. This sounds good. Maybe they're finally paying attention. Well, let's read further. Tim Edwards, president of Cal Fire Local 2881, said he's not ready just yet to throw in the support behind the governor, who, along with the legislature, cut the pay of roughly 6,000 members last summer, has shown little urgency in restoring it, even as the state's projected budget surplus goes. I speak for the membership that sees their pay has not been restored, Edwards says. So he's not saying I don't support, I'm not out for getting rid of Gavin Gulag Newsom. Yes, I'm mad because we ain't got a pay raise. Let's read further into the article. Edwards faces a challenge on state unions leaders likely to face now that the recall is qualified for the ballot. Many state employees don't like their pay cuts or were forced to take, especially since projected budget crisis were prompted. The reductions never came to pass. But they got more days off or stuff, so they really didn't lose anything. But Democratic governors traditionally have relied on unions for elective support, both in financial contributions, boots on the ground voter outreach. Absent another Democratic candidate, the alternative to Newsom would be a Republican Party that is traditionally unfriendly to organized labor. Let's just stop there for a second. Private sector unions have went from 25% representation to 6% from the 70s to today. Tell me how, and you hear Joe Biden and all that, and Gulag Gavin, how they're all for unions. No, they've seen a systematic 400% decline plus in union representation in private sector unions in this time, yet they're doing that. No, they're supporting public employee unions because they're the campaign cash that's giving them the money to do all this stuff. That's the truth. Unions do not say anything, people do. Unions represent the people of their membership. Unions are not the problem. It's the people that are in them because that's who they are speaking for. Let's get to the nuts and bolts of this. The real should have been the headline. The headline should have been California professional firefighters, 1,000 plus, support Gavin Newsom are against the recall. Here's the rest of it. California professional firefighters, an organization representing about 30,000 firefighters around the state, hosted a press conference Tuesday. We are no on the recall, Brian Rice said, the organization's president said. Rice called the recall effort divisive and a waste of time and money. He praised Newsom for investing in fire prevention, seasonal support staff, and technology to detect, fight fires throughout the state's lengthening fire season. California organization is part of an international association of firefighters whose Boston-based president Edward Kennedy also attended the press event. Cal Fire Local 288 is an affiliate of the umbrella organization, but Edwards said the local itself is reserving neutrality for the time being. Now let's analyze this a little bit. Newsom is investing in fire prevention, seasonal support staff, and technology to prevent fires when we just have one today down in LA burning and out of control. And how many tens of thousands of people have lost their lives? From the border to border, front to back in California, over the policies of Gavin Newsom, and the Cal fire chiefs have been saying up there, you're not clearing out the forest, you're not giving us the stuff to do that. You're not putting the policies in to make this. Not that we don't have the equipment or the manpower to clean up the dead trees out of the forest. You're not letting us do it. Consequently, these fires turn into tens of hundreds of millions of acres destroyed, and thousands and tens of thousands of people have been killed, and billions of property damage. That's what they should be saying. They should be saying, if you don't want your house to burn, you better get rid of Gulag Gavin. But no, what are they concerned about? The dollars in their paycheck, and that's it. Let's cut to the chase. And this is more further evidence that that's what's going on. What the problem is public employee unions. This started in 1972 when cops and firefighters went after an assemblyman who dared question their pensions. Jerry Brown saw that when he got elected. He was Secretary of State. When he got elected governor in '74, he said, "You know what all you public and pension employees want? You got it." And you know why it's caused today? It's just because of that. Let's talk to the truth. The truth will set you free. And now you know. And if you want to make vile threats or undocumented, it's going to come out. Cops and firefighters unions are putting out mailers against Corey Jackson. Well, you know what? Where were you when it started? You put Riverside Sheriff's Association went and destroyed Moreno Valley. They got the one good guy that was in there trying to clean it up, Tom Owings, and said, "We're getting you out of here." You know why? It's because of the dollars. And if you don't believe it, go back and look at the Moreno Valley City Council meeting when then Police Chief Joel Ontiveros was on, retiring. I walked up to the podium and I said, "You know what? We disagreed on a lot of this stuff or how to do it, but we all agreed something had to be done after the fact. That the cops were breaking us and everybody else." And when you look honestly at the numbers and you come to grips with it, then you can work to a solution of the problem. Solution of the problem is you got to stand up. You got to say what's right. Because, as I've said, them pensions look great. But what's 100% of zero? And if I can get bushings. Typical bushings, they used to have 500 and lower control arms. They used to have 500 of them. They're back ordered a month. Scared Andrews. Competition shocks about the supply chain of what's going on. Here we go. If I can get where's the microphone on this thing, Jesse? Is it under this plus? Let me see if I can do this. There it is. See, it was hiding under there. Now we go. Here we go.
Especially considering the times we're all living in as far as not being able to get things. Things we used to take for granted that we could just order and have the next day, you can't get. And they're getting harder and harder to get. And the things that you can't get seem to be growing every week. We've fought that a little bit. We have folks that have been waiting 4 and 5 weeks for sets of shocks because we can't get parts, and then vendors are behind, and it's hard to get material, and we're doing the best we can and trying to forecast out as far as we can to keep that from happening. And we appreciate everyone's patience.
So there we go with all this stuff, and there you go. The supply chain is just absolutely bonkers. I mean, you're hearing this all over the place. It's not just the shock guy in Indiana who builds race car shocks. It's everybody. Just eliminate that. X that out. You can't get it's hard to get anything anymore. And this is the first signs of something's going wrong. This is the first signs that things are going. You can't things, even though, everything's going. We got a big $75 billion surplus in California. Everything's, but you can't get stuff to do. This is what's gone. James Patrick Riley, you've seen him on the show. He posted this weird shortages list: garden, fencing, paneling. Home Depot has been out for 30 days. I ordered 15 sections of line. They took the money. Promised the goods in 10 days. I got a call from the store manager saying they only had 10, then 5. There's a security camera we've installed so that incredible you have to see what the image is, believe it. I can point to the thing in the mountaintop a mile away and zoom in to see the small rocks. But I can't order another one. They are out completely with no prediction as to what they will be available on. Food service workers ads will take over all the place. You know why. Silver and gold coins. He can't get stuff. There's James Patrick Riley, an apple grower up in Oak Glen. He's trying to get stuff that you wouldn't take for granted that you used to get at Home Depot. And you can't get it. Well, they took your money. Now we may have it in 30 days, and you're going to be lucky if you get it then. You're Garrett Andrews. 4 to 5 weeks, people have got shocks. I can't get parts to get them back to them so they can go use them and race their cars and have a good time. These are the beginning signs that troubles are brewing. You better pay attention. We better start working together, or it's all going to come unhinged. Somebody's going to say, you know what 100% of zero is? And if you think it can't happen, just go ask all those that are pouring across the border from Venezuela who've been starving to death. They heard
1 minute.
Free, free, free. Everything's going to be okay. Hugo Chavez promised them everything under the moon. And then one day it was all gone. And it happened just like that. And these are the signs that happened as the most shining example in Venezuela. Pretty soon you see the shortages and things weren't available. And then one day the electricity was off. There was no food in the store.
30
there was
seconds.
No gas to put in the back of your in plastic bags in the trunk of your car because the gas man wasn't even delivering it. That's what you've got to watch out for. Look at the underlying causes of that. Don't be celebrating. We got 25 bottles.
Here we go,
of beer
10
on the
seconds.
Counter today.
OEM Supply King. We got it!
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's a funky slide guitar music that's hesitating on us. It comes on every Monday through Friday on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire on that aforementioned AM band. Joining our vast video audience on Facebook, Twitch, and as I said, Jesse's favorite because he puts it on first every day, YouTube. As we go back and forth, Jesse pushing the buttons here, Sean back at KMET putting us out all over the airwaves on the old terrestrial AM radio. And again, I just got to, this is what we started the hour with, but I got to flip it up there again. This is exactly what we don't do. Thought the guy with putting the plastic bags of gas in his trunk was bad enough. This is the genius who uses his receiver tube holder little deal to put on there to put 30 gallons of gas in gas cans back there. Again, if you get in a rear-end collision like this, you and whoever hits you and maybe innocent bystanders may be burning up in a big wall of fire. Don't be stupid. As I said, Royism 101. Do not underestimate the stupidity of your fellow human being. You got to catch the video of Henry Smokey Eunuch of that from back in the day and why we're that. We released showed you the firefighters supporting Gavin Newsom and against the recall and what a great job he's doing managing our forest resources in California. It's in print. You got to see it to believe it. If you doubt anything I've been saying for these lone many years as we go. As we usually do at least once a week, we have, as I have designated, the premier physician in all the world and supreme expert on all things COVID-19 and practically everything else, Dr. Kelly Victory. Welcome to IE Newswire, Roy.
Hey, Roy. So good to be with you.
We do that on that, and it's amazing of that. We had something that went on, but this one struck me. Well, this is the first one. Two of them really struck me on that. The one of these NPR types was on there at the press briefing with Paskey today. And this was her conclusion or question and her concern of why the mask mandate was being released. Here's a short clip of it. Here we go.
So that more lives can be saved.
Can I ask you, I want to also switch to COVID. The largest national nurses union is saying that the CDC guidelines on masks is putting frontline workers and especially people of color at risk, and that they're calling for the CDC to reverse that. What's the White House's stance on that union in particular, saying that their members and people of color are at risk?
Well, I would say we don't have any particular response directly to the union. I will say that, again, the objective of the CDC...
Now, first thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think everybody is a person of color, because if you're not a person of color, you be considered a ghost. On top of that, the nurses now are carrying the water for if you were all going to die with the mask thing on that, and tap dancing around this as Walensky's been on. We started the week with this, you're going to die if you don't wear the mask, to, if you've been vaccinated, inside, outside, or anything else, you can wear that. Make some sense of this for me, Dr. Kelly.
Well, God forbid we should let an opportunity to throw the race card and go to waste. So I'll just let that one go. But what I would say about this, Roy, and this has been the problem with this pandemic debacle from the very beginning, is that the public health officials really have dropped the ball just mercilessly on the issue of communication. They have been so fickle. Truly, Anthony Fauci and now Walensky are Olympic gold medalists in the sport of being fickle. They change their minds so quickly, and the problem is that although they throw down the gauntlet of science, we're following the science, we're following the data, those are just words. That's just because they clearly are not, because the science does not change hour to hour and day to day the way that they would have you believe, and therefore you are led to conclude, and I think everyone has at this point, that the changes in their guidance and their directives are entirely motivated by politics. The masks are in, the masks are out, masks for kids, masks for these people, not for these other people. And it's very clear, I think, to most Americans now that the mask mandates should have been dropped long ago. The places in the country that did drop them, places like Florida and Texas and South Dakota, have done swimmingly, where the places that kept mask mandates and social distancing guidelines in place have done more poorly. So I think everyone's figuring it out, and unfortunately, Walensky and Anthony Fauci have done a tremendous disservice to public health. They have lost the trust of the American people, and I think rightly so.
I think you're right. This next clip we're going to play is probably, if nothing cements it, I don't think anything else will. Senator Richard Burr had him at a hearing. He had Walensky, Peter Marks from the FDA, and Lord Fauci up there, and ask one simple question: how many people in your area, under your tutelage control that you're employing, have been vaccinated? Here's the clip as it was run on PBS News.
Okay, this question, I'm going to go to Dr. Fauci, Dr. Marks, and Dr. Lewinsky. What percentage of the employees in your institute, your center, or your agency of your employees has been vaccinated?
Long pause.
You know, I'm not 100% sure, Senator, but I think it's probably a little bit more than half, probably around 60%.
Dr. Marks?
I can't tell you the exact number, but it's probably in the same range. Some people vaccinated at our facility and others at outside of the facility.
Dr. Lewinsky?
We're encouraging our employees to get vaccinated. We've been doing town halls and education seminars. Our staff have the option to report their vaccination status, but as you understand, the federal government is not requiring it, so we do not know.
I just want to put one point in there, and I mean, I have terrible hearing from a lot of reasons, but if you listen real closely, and when you're wearing earbuds and you got this stuff amped up, I'm sure right in there, somebody's whispering, I don't know. But again, what do you say to this? If this vaccine was, why isn't 147% Hugo Chavez election rate of all the people that work at CDC, FDA, under Fauci, vaccinated, Dr. Kelly?
Well, I think what you're seeing is really the sort of vaccine hesitancy that exists even amongst the people who are working on it in these very institutions. And I think this is really a dark stain on Anthony Fauci and Walensky and Marks, because what they're exposing is your own people, the people who are deep in the science, as it were, in the research labs working on this, who have access to all of the information about these vaccines. They themselves aren't taking it. And I think that that's very, very telling. Again, I respect anyone's decision to take this vaccine. I am pro-vaccine in general, but I believe that they need to be tested. And in my mind, these vaccines clearly have not been adequately tested. That said, any individual has the right, and I respect it, to determine that it's in their best interest to take it because they're concerned about COVID. The issue is, if these vaccines are as good as they say they are, and Walensky went on and on and on the Sunday talk shows saying anyone who's vaccinated is now protected. They are protected. They don't need to worry. Well, terrific. If that's the case, then why the hell do they care at all what I'm doing or whether or not anybody else has been vaccinated? If these vaccines are the be-all and end-all and are so fabulous, then terrific. Then don't worry about what other people around you are doing.
Exactly. If I don't want to get the vaccine, if I don't want to wear a mask, if you want, and I'm not wearing a mask, if you want to stay 87,000 feet away from me, and a lot of people do for that for a lot of various other reasons, but that's a subject for a different day, that or whatever, that's your choice. Do not be forcing it on to me. If I don't want to be, excuse me, I don't want to take a experiment. I will be one in the lab rat, as you've disclaimed it. We're all a lab rat in this experiment. I choose to be on the side of, I'm going to see how this works. I'm going to live my daily life as I always have, as society, the earth, the universe, for the end of times, that we know it has worked. I'm taking my chances with that. If you want to get the vax, or you think social distancing works for you, go for it. Don't ruin the rest of our lives, Dr. Kelly.
No, I agree, and I think that the concept of healthcare and medical autonomy has really been lost, and that is a concept that's sacrosanct in this country, that you have the right to make the best decisions for what's right for you. No one else can impose that on you. It is clearly against, it's in frank violation of federal law for an employer or any organization to mandate these vaccines because they are entirely experimental. They are not FDA approved, and that comes right out of the Nuremberg Code. We learned some time ago that you cannot and should not ethically, morally, or legally foist a treatment on someone against their will. And so the idea that people are using different coercion tactics to get you to do it, whether it's an out-and-out mandate or they're saying things like, well, you can't attend school for in-person classes, or you can't live in the dormitory, or you can't keep your current job, or you need to keep wearing a mask where others, your co-workers who've been vaccinated, don't need to wear a mask. Those all fall under the umbrella of coercion. And people cannot legally be coerced to take a treatment against their will. And I think it's a very, very slippery slope when we start moving that direction or suggesting that in order to get on public transportation or to attend, a sporting event or a concert, that you would be asked or forced to essentially show your papers. We are really in some dark times ahead if people need to have papers in order to travel freely and to exert their civil liberties.
This next clip we're going to play gives me a glimmer of hope. This is Samari Armstrong. She's an actress, moved from Hollywood, couldn't take California, moved to Arizona, thought things would get better, thought, well, even the governor's dropping the state mask mandate, but the schools decided not to. Her son was told, you're going to have to put the mask on or leave. And he said, I ain't putting on no mask. He said, we're going to call your mom. And he said, go ahead. Here's Samari Armstrong on America's Voice News. Here we go.
Yeah, he has that backbone that so many politicians and leaders are missing. Kids have an instinct on what is right and what is wrong. And on a particular day at school, he had enough. He said, I don't want to wear this anymore. It's like we live in Arizona. It's close to 90 degrees a month back. And he took it off after they were about to go into school after recess. He tore it up. He stomped it on the ground. And he said, my body, my rights. I don't want to wear this anymore.
Now, there's a kid that gives me a little bit of hope that we might be able to save this thing. He's took it off, stomped it on the ground, said, I ain't wearing it anymore, Dr. Kelly.
Well, good for him. He's at least got a lick of common sense. Interestingly, you may be aware that Trader Joe's, for example, just announced that they were dropping the mask mandate. They have dropped the mask mandates in their stores, and that happened yesterday. So today, I went to Trader Joe's for the first time in over a year, and the place was packed, absolutely packed, and I was the only person in the entire store not wearing a mask. Every employee and every single shopper, of which there were dozens, were wearing masks. And clearly, they're all aware. The signs are no longer on the door saying you don't need a mask to be in Trader Joe's, yet I was the only person. This has become such a security blanket for so many Americans. It is absolutely terrifying. These are people who now can no longer even think for themselves. They're walking around wearing masks. I guarantee 80% of them, this being Southern California, 80% of them have been vaccinated, yet they're still wearing a mask. They don't even know what they're hiding from anymore. It's just become such a secure, it's a safety blanket to them. And truly, I think it's going to take years, Roy, for us to unwind this incredible psyop that we just had, foisted upon us by the federal government. This is pathetic.
If we can, and you bring up a good point of that, let's talk a little bit about the psychology of this. Tell everybody wear a mask. Well, I ain't wearing no mask. Then, you put the fear into them. Oh, you're going to die. Oh, well, maybe you're not concerned about yourself, but your mom, your kids, or so you might kill somebody else if you don't wear the mask, if you don't social distance. So then they get you conditioned to that, and then they convince you to do that and make all these mandates, and they do that. Then they lift the mandate, and as you said, the people are conditioned so to do that, and they've been used, the biggest motivator, by fear to do that. Even though you don't have to wear the mask, they still wear it. Dr. Kelly.
Yeah, exactly. You heard Rachel Maddow over this weekend saying she was going to need to recondition herself to feel okay, to feel safe going out for a walk without a mask on. And there are three components that I think contribute to this really psychiatric illness that's going around. Number one is, as you said, it's the nature of fear itself. That when people are in fear, they do things that often defy common sense. And there's no question that people have been put into a position of fear for their own lives, the lives and health and wellness of their families and their loved ones. second contributor is the horrific job that the public health leaders, namely St. Fauci, have done in articulating really what's supposed to happen. And the amount of flip-flopping that's gone on has left people very, very confused about what they're supposed to do on any given day. And therefore, they just think, well, I'll just do the most conservative thing and be as safe as possible. And the third thing really is somewhat, is harder to explain. It's this component of people who, as I said, have worn the mask like a security blanket. It's much like an infant, a baby that you swaddle, that you wrap up tightly. It loses the use of its own arms and legs. It loses control of its ability to use its limbs, but it feels safe when it's wrapped up snugly. So even though it can't move and it has no autonomy, it feels secure. And therefore, when you unwrap a baby from swaddling, it flails its arms and legs and screams bloody murder. And that's very much how I see a huge portion of the population. The mask, the social distancing, the lockdowns, working from home, all of this is like swaddling. They've become comfortable with it. And even though they've lost their autonomy and lost their ability to exert their own civil liberties, it has made them feel secure. And that is a terrifying position for us to be in as a country, because it makes us absolutely not resilient, not capable of self-determination, not capable of defending ourselves or anything else.
It's just like fear. It can be used for good or evil, and there is a component. You want to have a certain amount of fear. If I jump off this 300-foot cliff, I am probably going to die. That's not a good idea. But if you condition people by using fear, you can get them to do things that they would normally never do, like give up their freedom, like doing this. And this is why I always thought it was very important not to wear the mask and point out the reasons why. And we're seeing it. Like you pointed out the example with Maddow with this, and your example of walking into Trader Joe's. Even though they're told they can't wear the mask, they're still wearing it, and mainly because of fear.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, I flew on Saturday, and at one point there was a woman who had a very fussy baby, maybe, 9 or 10 month old baby. So she was walking in the aisle and the baby was just crying and crying and crying. And I did something, unheard of. I pulled my mask down and I smiled at this baby who immediately stopped crying and immediately started interacting with me. And now, of course, I got reprimanded by the flight attendant. But I'm thinking, this poor child, this poor 9 or 10 month old kid, all he wants is his mother didn't pull her mask down. She's too dumb to do that, to realize this baby might benefit from a little facial expression, a smile, having some. Instead, this baby is looking at this sea of faceless people on an airplane, and all it took was a little human interaction. And when I say, that this has been one big psyop, it's not because I'm a virus denier or some sort of silliness. Obviously, I know the virus is real, and I know that many people have become significantly ill from it. Obviously, it profoundly impacted the elderly population and those people in nursing homes. But the reality is, it is not a horrific virus in and of itself. What has been horrific is the country's response to it. The response to this pandemic has caused far more pain, suffering, illness, and death than the virus ever would have by itself.
Words of wisdom from Dr. Kelly Victory, and why I call her the premier physician into the entire world. Thanks for being on. We'll do it again real soon.
Sounds great, Roy. Have a wonderful week.
You too. Dr. Kelly Victory on all things COVID. And she I really think, and the reason I tuned that into there and got into the psychology, that's what this whole thing's been all about. It hasn't been about the vid. Hasn't been about the virus or anything. It's been about control. How do they control you? They use fear. And that's how they do that. How do they control you? They make you fearful of your own parent. Now, that I mean, we're getting down to that. You know, the no social interaction. I've said that this was the whole thing. The mask was designed to break you down. The mask was designed that you could see these faceless, just, you know, you might as well just cut off your head and walk around with arms and legs. You don't know if the person next to you is smiling, sad. You don't know with the mask on. You tell a lot by people's facial expression. Probably tell a lot by me because of hands, animated, facial expressions and stuff. That's how you can tell. You tell a lot. People are serious. You tell if people are being funny, ha, or something, or, you know, they like that child. You know, maybe you just needed a little attention for whatever reason. But with the mask on, they're not getting, they don't know your reaction. They don't know if you're getting what they're trying to communicate to you or not. You don't know what they're trying to communicate further with all this nonsense. That's the danger of this. That's the real danger of letting this proliferate throughout our society. And again, just as you heard Samari Armstrong, who moved out of Hollywood, actress, thought I was getting, I couldn't take California anymore in the Hollywood and the whole thing. And they moved to Arizona, and here we go, the same thing. But again, at least she's teaching her kid to stand up for himself. And backed him up when he did it. Not backing your kid up when they're doing something wrong, but backing your kid up when they're doing something right. The school resource officers are not the problem. Not even the schools or that. It's us. We're the ones that allow this. We pay the bill. And as they say, the golden rule, he who has the gold makes the rules. And really, you're the ones with the gold. Whether you choose to give it to your union and let them speak for you, and they endorse Gavin Newsom while California burns, again, you want to use the analogy about a gun. Gun do not kill people, people do. Unions do not say anything. They represent the people in the union. You can't use one analogy and not use it on another. Unless you want to be in the liars class, in the misinformation class. You want to be like Dr. Fauci or Walensky or Marx. You want to be a propaganda artist. Telling the truth, telling it the way it is. Like guys like Henry Smokey Eunuch is really the only option. If you want your freedom, if you want your future, if you want a better future for your kids, you know, everything's not hunky-dory. Everything's not perfect. And everything's never going to be in this place called Earth. But you got to deal with it the way it is. The way it is presented to you under no uncertain terms, and face it straight on, straight up, and let the chips fall where they may. We'll be back here in 23 hours. It's mandatory that you are also. We'll bring you all the news and everything that happens on that. So, in 23 hours, see ya!